We think we are living in a world of new problems: inflation, housing crises, the collapse of global superpowers. But what if I told you the blueprint for your financial future was not written in a Wall Street boardroom, but in the dust of the Bronze Age? Today, we are tracing the ultimate echo. It is a story of a family that became a nation that became an empire, and the legacy that was sold, enslaved, and eventually redeemed. From the marketplaces of Ur to the high courts of Egypt, this is not just a history lesson. This is a masterclass in wealth, power, and the eternal cycle of the pivot. Stick around, because by the end of this, you will see why the Great Reset everyone is talking about today actually happened. 3,000 years ago, 1800 BC, the city of Ur. Imagine the New York City of the ancient world. It was a hub of trade, innovation, and idols. Meet Ibrahim. His father was not just a citizen, he was an entrepreneur. He manufactured gods. Business was booming because, in a polytheistic society, everyone needed a product to worship. But Ibrahim saw the bubble for what it was. He realized that if you are worshipping something you carved with your own hands, the intrinsic value is zero. Think of it as history's first rejection of a debased currency. Ibrahim preached a return to the original source. But as any whistleblower knows, the establishment hates a disruptor. Ibrahim was forced to liquidate his life and flee. He did not just move, he diversified. He traveled to Canaan, modern-day Palestine, and sent his nephew, Lot, to the Jordan River Valley. But the most legendary startup in history happened when Ibrahim took his wife Hajar and their son, Ismail, to a barren valley in the Arabian Peninsula. No water, no resources, total economic isolation. Until the pivot, Hajar's desperation led to the discovery of the well of Zamzam. Suddenly, a barren desert had the world's most valuable commodity, water. This was not just a miracle. It was the birth of a trade hub. Years later, Ibrahim and Ismail built the Kaaba, establishing the first global center of gravity for pilgrimage. But before the legacy could be secured, Ibrahim faced the ultimate audit. He was commanded to sacrifice his son. They both submitted. At the final second, a ram replaced the boy. This sacrifice did not just start a tradition. It established a principle. True wealth only comes after total submission to the truth. But while Ismail was building the foundations of the East, his brother, Ishaq, was about to start a lineage in the West that would change the face of global economics forever. Ishaq had a son named Yaqub. He was also known as Israel. His 12 sons, the 12 tribes, were the ultimate family office, but internal competition is a killer. Envious of their brother Yousef, the siblings shorted his life, throwing him into a well and selling him into slavery. Yousef ended up in Egypt. He did not have capital, but he had intellectual property. He could interpret dreams. After a stint in prison on false charges, the classic cancel culture of the ancient world, he was summoned by the king. The dream? 7 fat cows, 7 lean cows. Yousef did not just interpret it. He provided a macroeconomic policy. Store the surplus during the boom years, he said. To survive the coming bust, the king made Yousef the Minister of Finance. When the famine hit, Egypt was the only central bank with reserves. Yousef's brothers came crawling back for grain. He forgave them, and the entire clan of Bani Israel moved to Egypt as the elite. But here is the echo you need to watch. Egypt was then ruled by the Hyksos, foreign kings. They liked the Bani Israel, but then came a hostile takeover. The native Egyptian pharaohs overthrew the Hyksos. Suddenly, the Bani Israel were not the elite anymore. They were nationalized. They became slaves. For generations, they were the human capital, building the pharaohs' monuments. Their sons were slaughtered to control the population growth. It was a total market collapse for the people of Israel, until Musa, born a slave, raised a prince. Musa was the ultimate insider, who saw the system's corruption from the top down. After an accidental killing forced him into exile, he returned with a demand letter from the highest authority. "Let my people go." The Exodus was not just a religious flight. It was the largest capital flight in history. Pharaoh's army, the world's most expensive military, was liquidated in the Red Sea. But liberation has a price. In the wilderness of Sinai, the Bani Israel entered into a covenant, a divine contract. Worship only the one, follow the law. This was their constitution. After 40 years of market correction in the desert, a new generation under Joshua, finally entered the Promised Land. They established 12 kingdoms, which eventually unified under King Saul, and then the legendary Dawud. Dawud was the warrior CEO. He mastered metallurgy, creating the first advanced body armor, and was given the Zebor. His son, Suleiman, took the company to its IPO. Suleiman's kingdom was the peak. He had power over the winds, the animals, and the jinn. He built the first temple as the global point of interest for the faithful. At every peak is followed by a trough. When Suleiman passed, the empire split. And what happens when a nation breaks its contract? The creditors come to collect. By 900 BC, the kingdom split. Israel in the north, Judah in the south. They started importing foreign idols, bad cultural debt. First came the Assyrians in 720 BC. They deported the north. Then came the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar II. They did not just invade, they foreclosed on the temple. In 586 BC, the first temple was leveled. The Bani Israel were taken as collateral to Babylon. This is the cycle of the echo. Cyrus the Great defeats Babylon and refinances the return to Jerusalem. Alexander the Great merges the region into his empire. By 63 BC, Judea is a client state of Rome. This was the environment into which the final prophets of Bani Israel were sent: Zechariah, his son Yahya, and finally, Isa. Isa was not just a preacher, he was a system auditor. He called out the religious leaders who had turned the temple into a marketplace. He told them they had broken the covenant. The establishment tried to delist him. They thought they killed him. But the Quran tells a different story. They did not kill him, nor did they crucify him, but it was made to appear so to them. But his departure created a hard fork in the movement. 1. The rejectors, who denied him. 2. The Christians, who followed a new version of the contract. And 3. The Muslims, those who waited for the final update, promised in the ancient texts, the prophet from the desert of Kedar. So, what is the echo for your bank account today? The story of Bani Israel is the story of the cycle of supremacy. When they followed the contract, the law, they owned the market, the world. When they prioritized short-term gain, idols, and corruption, they faced liquidation. Today, we see the same patterns. Nations that abandon their core principles for idols of debt and consumerism eventually face a great reset. The legacy of Bani Israel did not end with a bloodline. It passed to those who maintained the account. As Muslims, we are the successors. We do not just study this history, we live it. The question is not whether history repeats itself. The question is, when the next echo hits, will you be the one holding the grain or the one begging for a loan? This is the money echoes. If you want to understand the future, you have to listen to the past. See you in the next echo. History does not just repeat, it rhymes. So make sure you are listening for the next Money Echoes. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.